everybody, and thanks for tuning back in here to another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Well, I hope y'all like that little intro I got of the bike and playing around a little bit, do a little bit of riding, you know, show for the few people that only think that I buy these things to talk and just lean in the garage. Well, let me first and foremost assure you, I know how to ride around a racetrack, drag a knee or anything like that. I just don't really do it on the street or anything as much. It's just not as safe, you know. But for the individuals that have accomplished things and have gone down and have done some things like that in their life, well, you tend to be a little wiser when you get a little bit older because you have a little bit more to lose than to gain, than to just show off to say, oh, you can drag your knee on this bike or do this on the street. No, fuck that. Do it on the track where it's designed and supposed to be done. Anyway, enough of me bitching and complaining. This here video is about my 2017 GSXR 1000R that I recently picked up about a week ago. As I told you and you saw in my previous video, how I lost a lot of that other footage when I went to go get it. Again, I apologize. And here's the new footage. This is what we're gonna make of it. So here's my little quick review of the bike. And let me tell you exactly why I bought it, considering I have 4 of the Ducatis and the S1000RR and a couple other bikes. So like, why would I buy this? Like, most people think that it's a little bit of a step going backwards. Well, first and foremost, let me tell you, it's not. And because let me tell you, I bought it because I like it and I want it and I really like it, and this is what I wanted. Now let me tell you, this is my 5th GSXR that I've owned. I only currently own one, but this is the 5th one that I've owned during my lifetime. Now you could say that I am partial to it, into the Suzuki brand and such, but I also have a big bloodline in racing, and I will tell you this: no other bike manufacturer makes it easier to race prep than Suzuki. And by far it is the easiest bike and everything to work on. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the fastest bike around the track, around anything else. It's definitely the quickest to race prep and enjoy and just have some fun with it. Now, as you see, this bike is for the most part here in stock form. I've taken some reflectors off and stick-on reflectors, and obviously the hideous big can that comes with it. Nonetheless, it was way too damn quiet here from the factory, and it looked hideous. And it doesn't look great without the stock pipe, but let me tell you, it looks better than it did with the pipe on there. And then it actually obviously gives a little bit of sound, but more on the performance and stuff that later. That's already on order and such. The stock headers, the stock manifold, whatever you want to call it, the whole one piece, that's all going by the wayside anyway, so I didn't really care. So why did I get this bike? Well, I have my S1000, and obviously that's going to still remain the bike that I love the most out of all my bikes that are currently here in my stable. It's hands down for sure the fastest, because it is modded, so it is for sure faster than my V4, no question about it. Stock for stock, they're probably about the same, but I went along in the old other videos about where the V4 is faster and where the S1000 is faster, whatever. 2 different bikes that accomplish 2 completely different things, and that's why I don't race them against each other, because the S1000 and top speed will always beat the V4, and the V4 will always beat the S1000 around the corners. Again, it's whatever. But overall best street bike, overall, you know, money aside, of course, as I said in my last video, the S1000. But this, I think, in my personal opinion, it's like the LS, the Corvettes, you know, of motorcycles. I think it's the best street bike you can buy for the money when you have the options and such, you know, put on it. Because it doesn't come with very many options, even though the R model is the top model, but it doesn't come with a crazy amount of options like how you would get on your S1000s and other bikes. Now, don't get me wrong, Kawasaki and the ZX10R is quickly on its ass, and some people will argue and say that that bike is maybe a little bit of a better value. Well, when they're base for base, I do think the ZX10 is base. Is better than the GSXR 1000. But when you factor that extra R on the on the GSXR 1000R, it's a whole different ball game, and it takes things into a different perspective. But again, I bought this bike because I love it. I've had a couple GSXR 1000s in the past. I had a Frankenstein bike, a GSXR 600 chassis, 750 motor, 600 transmission. I mean, this thing would spank up on 1000s all the time, and it would look like a 600. I had all 600 gauges, 600 swing arms, 600 badging, so you never would look. But I was running at the same times as the S1000. Nonetheless, I'm a lightweight. 2, I was good at riding, and 3, I didn't have the heavy advantage that all the 1000s has, and I could still lean it in turn. Then, of course, I also had my Hayabusa and such, and I've had all the bikes now. I've had the CBRs, I have ridden the Yamahas and had everything, and there's still something that brings me back to good old Suzuki. And when this bike here was in development, when it was coming out of the womb, because we all know from like 2007 to like 2015 it was the same old Suzuki. But 2007 was an exceptional Suzuki GSXR 1000, but for a long time they just kept changing the front nose on it just a little bit, putting a little different paint scheme on it, and they were losing their ass, you know, to every other bike. And then when that R1 and the S1000s came out, just like, I mean, I, you know, as partial as I am to Suzuki, they were losing. They didn't have anything to offer. They were making like the same bike for almost a decade with no changes and such. So you add a couple riding modes here and there, but that wasn't good enough. And then when they announced that the whole GSXR 1000 is going to be under revamp in 16 and 15, I said, oh, hell yeah. But by that time, I'd already bought my S1000, and it kind of made no sense for me to go back. Nonetheless, I wasn't in the position to afford all of the bikes that I have currently at the moment as I am now. So would I trade this? Let me ask you, because I know the next question a lot of people ask me, well, then why did you buy it? Would you trade this for your S1000? Absolutely not. Because even though the S1000 is double the cost of the money, it is a much better bike. However, if you can't afford the S1000, I would definitely highly recommend you take a look at the GSXR 1000R, because I do think, given this price category, and you get a lot for your money, especially with performance. Now, you guys saw me get on this in a few, you know, pulls a little bit earlier. My bike is not flashed. It does not have the you know, any performance exhaust. It has no fuel maps or anything like that, and that's all coming. And anyone that knows anything about this bike, flashing this ECU with the throttle restrictions and everything else is like a 30 horsepower gain, and we all know 2 or 3 horsepower is a lot on a motorcycle. You're only 400 pounds, but 30 up top past 12,000 RPM, that's hauling some serious ass there, and it's going to make a big difference. And you could sprocket this thing and do 200 miles an hour in the standing mile, or 9/10, no question. I've seen it done many times. I'm not going to strap, stretch, or lower my bike or anything. I like to turn, but I just want the extra additional power. So, of course, the new headers are coming, the new pipe is coming, the flash is coming, the dyno tune is coming, you know, all that is definitely coming, and those videos are coming. But why did I buy this bike so much? Again, is because I love it, and I think it's an exceptional value for what it is. I don't have a blue bike in my stable, but now I do. Very happy to. And you can't beat the OE Suzuki colors, you know, that blue and white. And they added that, you know, green for this edition. I think it is really killer. You know, all my bikes are black or white, which pretty much they all have been for the most part, except my V4. You can get the V4 in any color you'd like, as long as it's red, and that's the color I got it in. So I would probably have got that bike in black if it would have came in black, and I think that would have been a killer looking bike. Maybe I'll wrap it one day, who knows, I don't know. But anyway, but the suspension with the Showa BFF and the reservoirs, and how you can control a lot of the suspension and how it dampens and everything, I think it works just really, really good. But nonetheless, here, let me touch on something that what makes this bike so great is its street manners. Suzuki, whether it's the GSXR 600, 750, 1000, and most importantly the Hayabusa, have excellent street manners. The riding position, it's like you're sitting on a couch. Now, some individuals will say that's not appropriate for the track. Well, they didn't win 14 titles by having a piece of shit bike or having a shitty riding position. Now, I'm not going to go into that about how Yamaha kills Suzuki and Honda kills all the other ones, and Ducati, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and boast and say Suzuki's just the shit. No, it's not. They have just as many goods as they have flaws. But as far as reliability and ease to work on and ease to maintenance, but most importantly, driving it on the street. Because as I say, a lot of guys buy these bikes and drive them on the street and then race them sometimes on the weekend. So your street manners mean a lot to an individual that's going to be riding their fast bike on the street. So as I always talk so much shit in the Ducati, the seat has always been great on the Suzuki. It's comfortable. I rode this bike from Tampa home. That's 3.5 hours across the state of Florida with no problem. If I had one gripe about this bike, about that entire trip, it wasn't even getting caught in all the rainstorms, the tires, or anything like that, is the fact that it just didn't have cruise control like how my S1000 does. If I did, because then I could switch off hands and my wrist just wouldn't get as tired. But that's the biggest complaint. You could add it, you could really make that a complaint, or is it really not a complaint? Well, the BMW is special, and it's one of the very few crotch rockets, or maybe the only crotch rocket that actually has cruise control. So that bike is exceptional for that purpose and to have that, but we ain't even going to touch on that. If I want cruise control and I want to be comfortable, then I ride a cruiser, not necessarily so much a crotch rocket. So that was my really only complaint and gripe. After 3.5 hours, I didn't even really want to get off of it. The same way how I really feel about when I ride my S1000RR for 3.5 hours. It's great. The quick shifter on this bike is just as good as the S1000, if not better, given the fact that it is 2 years newer. But I can't begin to tell you the amount of value you get for what this bike costs in this category, because there isn't really anything else out there. And then when you start to step up into, now I'm not saying the R1, because the R1M is more money than this, and that bike is kick-ass. And you know me, I'm not a big Yamaha fan. The R1M is kick-ass, but the R1M is a lot more money than this bike, not the R1, the traditional R1. Then you have the new Fireblade. You also have this bike. You also have the S1000, you know, a few other bikes. But again, I bought this bike because I love it. It's super comfortable. The riding position is great. It's not so hard on your palms when you're riding here all the time. Again, 3.5 hours of riding, and I was okay. Doing 60, doing 100, even getting up to like 160, 170 miles an hour, and it's flawless. And again, when it's time to do maintenance and start to race prep and work on this thing, oh my God. It's very similar still to all of my other ones. They've changed some things, but not changed everything, where I'm like, oh my God, this is completely foreign, like working on a Ducati as opposed to a Suzuki. They've kept things a lot of the same. And as you just look at it, everything is so accessible. Everything is pretty easy. You take the fairings off, you do what you got to do, and you put the shit back on, and it works perfectly. So basically what I'm saying, I bought this bike again because I love it. It suited me well, it fits me well, and it felt to have one of my first bikes back in my stable again, because it is also sentimental to me. But I do really think it is a great bike, and it's an exceptional bike for the money. If you are looking for something more and you want something a little bit faster, or maybe something a little bit more unique, then absolutely I understand. Maybe this bike may not suit the bill for exactly what it is that you're trying to do. But with the addition of what I already currently have within my stable, this completed it for me. And I think, and I tell everybody, I should have bought this damn bike years ago when it first came out, but I was still busy trying out other bikes. And you'll never know what you don't like until you try something, and then you know you don't like it. See, I already had 4 or 5 other Suzuki, so if I would have never tried any of the Ducatis or any of the Yamahas or the Hondas or Kawasaki's or anything like that, I would have never known how good or how much I liked my Suzuki until it was gone. So you got to have, you know, some of the bad to appreciate the good, and that's just with anything in life. So I think that's going to wrap it up here for today's video. We'll do some other things about the things I don't like about it. Again, I haven't owned it long enough for me to nitpick and grind on it, but there is some shit, believe it or not, that I don't like about the new one, and we're going to cover that in a couple follow-ups video and have some more fun with this thing. So that's going to conclude it here for today's episode here on my quick review on the GSXR 1000R. If you like what you saw, again, don't forget to subscribe. Check me out on Instagram at the Speedbug, same name here as YouTube, and we'll check you here for another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Deuces.